We are told that we need milk to be healthy, but many people find they're healthier without it. Here, I'm talking to Andrew Millis, who has ulcerative colitis. He believes that dairy has contributed to his problems.
One thing I've not done in my life in moderation is drinking milk. I've always had a serious amount of milk. It's always worried me that on a trip through a London station, for example, you can buy a pint of milk, cold milk for 50p, while a bottle of water from Smith's costs £1.75. And that's the wrong way around. I've always believed that. So I've had a lot of milk to drink. In 1995, I went to work in Paris and I started drinking milk there. I'd be walking to work and I'd get a carton of milk, but the carton's not 1 pint, but 1 litre. So I increased my milk consumption. And after my return, after working in Paris, something like 1996, early 1997, I started to fall ill. And without going into details, probably no one wants, I had an urgency and an output which was unsustainable. So I did see my doctor and I started a number of hospital outpatient appointments, which one, I got worse and worse. And the medication I took, mainly steroids, got worse and worse. I ended up by having my large intestine or transverse colon removed. And I had in the end, I had at that point a point where the small intestines come through my stomach into a bag. And that was the end of the problem. That was the end of the illness. But I kept on drinking milk properly and finding it did affect me. I know cheese affected me quite seriously. It would give me pretty awful output. So I carried on and I had yearly inspections at the hospital. And in 2007 or 2006, it was decided that I had precancerous signs in the remaining rectum, which had not been removed. And so I had to make a decision of having that removed, and that would leave me with the bag forever, or I could have a reconstruction called a pouch, which is where more of the small intestines are pulled through, folded into a rugby ball, and then sewn onto the anal sphincter, which controls continence. And so I decided to have that because I'd started running from about 2 years prior to that. In fact, in 2006, I did my first proper half marathon race. I was well prepared for that surgery, and it was about 4 or 5 hours on the bench, and they roll you onto your side, and two surgeons go into you both sides, so they're open to the point that they can see daylight through you. So I had that performed, and it had worried me because a lot of those operations are unsuccessful. They leak, they have polyps, fistulas, or they require almost a lifetime of drugs to slow your stomach down to improve the output. So I got on well with that. I've never looked back, and it was successful. Shortly after that, I started to run marathons. And I used to have to take antibiotics in order to prevent a small infection I used to get in my pouch. And that was necessary when I run a marathon because I had to absorb my fluids and I had to absorb my food. So that carried on until a point where I started to drop meat because I'd seen at lunchtime a butcher's lorry arrive at a butcher's shop and unload carcasses, and I had to cross the road because I didn't want to see that. And I thought, why am I doing this? If I'm still eating meat, because I couldn't be eating meat if I don't like the sight of the poor pig being hung on a hook. So I dropped meat, and I remember going to marathons in capital cities and looking for fish dishes. And that sort of drifted. I became more keen on being vegetarian, and I read How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger.
Brilliant
And
book.
a fantastic book.
Yeah.
And I also listened to my son who had dropped dairy prior to that. And he'd say to me, Dad, why are you drinking milk? That's for calves. That's not for us. So I took that on. And in 2019, I took this decision after the last piece of my wife's cake to become 100% vegan. I did have that first surgery. I did meet a dietitian, and that dietitian went through some options. And the conclusion was I should try dropping dairy and dropping wheat products. I found out there are so many wheat products about, so many. And I said, what am I going to have for breakfast then? And she said, well, bacon and eggs. Well, looking back now, that's not what I'd have preferred. So I did that. It didn't make any difference. In fact, I did that for 2 or 3 weeks. I remember reverting to a large bowl of apple crumble and custard in the canteen at work. So that was the end of that diet, and it didn't make any difference. So I carried on, and since 2019, when I have become vegan, I have noticed that certain good foods are amazing, and I can go as if I've never had anything wrong. Plenty of broccoli, for example, is amazing, very, very good indeed, and I have no further need for any antibiotics. I have never taken any medication for several years. The surgery I've had has been totally successful because many people do have to take medication. I've taken absolutely nothing. I still run marathons successfully. I've met with the surgeon in Waitrose once, and I said, "Am I the fastest marathon runner of anyone you've operated on?" He said, "You're the only marathon runner of anyone I've operated on." So that's been good. Uh, and I do believe that the large amount of milk I have consumed in my life was a contributing factor. It can't be coincidence. I found it tasted odd in Paris, and after that, I was ill. The milk I bought in France could not have been pasteurized, perhaps not properly. I might have bought a variety of products which were not what I was used to, and cheese certainly seriously affected me. So I do believe that didn't help at all. I also know that people have a similar disease, Crohn's disease, which affects all of the intestinal tract, have been known to get that from bacteria, which is not killed by pasteurizing milk.
Oh,
So
really?
I do believe that that is similar. Clearly, we can't be sure, but I'm very, very happy now. I'm very well. I'm very healthy. And I feel I do have no hesitation in recommending a vegan diet, which I think would have stopped me being ill. Or certainly, maybe I didn't need that surgery after all.
Do you think it's actually being a vegan has helped since all the surgery? Do you think it's had a positive effect
I do, and I
on
have really
your
seen.
health or your digestive health?
I do, I do. Clearly, I'm not the same as someone who's got their large intestine, but far more food than ever before is perfectly satisfactory for me. And this is a very good, comfortable um, use of the toilet, so to speak. And that's definitely improved without a shadow of a doubt. In 1999, before I went under the knife for the first time, and this chap said to me, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Good, because you won't find it very easy to get a partner with this bag hanging off your stomach." So that gave me a little bit of dread. We had been advised at the hospital, we don't need fiber anymore. We don't have a bowel, and therefore not to have fibrous vegetables and to have soft things like cream and eggs. But again, looking back, that's not really, to me, the right thing. When it's also worth adding in a similar subject that not long after becoming vegan, and this is after, I read an article in our local magazine, it published in the Hunstanton area in Norfolk where I live, about veganism and how this lady who had recovered from psoriatic arthritis on a whole food vegan diet. So I sent a message to this lady, a one Kate Dunbar, and she did reply, and we've been friends ever since. In fact, we both run together.
Yeah,
So that's very good.
I've seen pictures of the two of you running, and I've actually done a video interview for this channel with Kate, and she has a very interesting tale to tell about
Yes.
her psoriatic arthritis and how changing her diet has completely changed it, and she's completely medication free. And she runs marathons with her friend Andrew.
Yes. In my case, the improvement in my health is not quite as conclusive because she could see she'd been on this medication for 5 years, a number of years, in fact, and she was able to come off bit by bit by bit, to the point she was taking none at all. I've only got um, my situation after a moderately successful operation anyway, but I knew then I had to take antibiotics to improve my absorption. And I don't now at all. I never have since really being vegan. I've taken nothing at all. So I view that as being something of a certainty for me and something which I would use to recommend being plant-based.
Fantastic. You are a trustee for a charity, I think, in this
Mm,
area. Can you tell us
but
about that?
yes, for a number of years, I've supported a group called the Red Lion Group, and I don't know why it's called that. I should know. There's a website called called pouchsupport.org. And we aim to have a number of medics and a number of stoma nurses who provide help to people with before and after pouch surgery. So the pouch is a formation of a replacement large intestine. And there are some brilliant medics there who support people. And we have a trust to provide a website and provide counselling and provide people to talk through anyone considering that surgery. And I'm a trustee of that. I'm on the board of committee of that charity, and I do enjoy talking to people about it. But I haven't needed any help myself, which is wonderful. And I have been able to talk to other people in meetings, and I've said, well, I came out of the second form of surgery, and I was back to working in 6 days, and even cycling to work because I believed that running was such a big help for that.
Yeah, yeah. How much running do you actually do in an average week?
An average week, I should be doing 30 to 40 miles. It does tail off. In the winter, you think, no, I don't want to go out. I used to work 6 to 7 miles away, and that was fantastic cycling and running either way. At least to run at least 2 days a week, and that got 14 miles done straight away. And a long run at the weekend. Really missed that. Working at home now, I've really got to go downstairs in my gym jams, and that's it. So having exercise part of your commute is so good. And I really believe that helped me enormously, and it kept me on song for the marathons I've done as well. So that's been brilliant. Again, I do remember on some capital city marathons having a runner streak past with vegan runners on his shirt. I've thought, how does he get any protein? How come he's passing me? But then now, of course, I know all about that argument, and I can join them.
Vegan runners seems to be a really great group of people, seem very supportive of each other. There's a real sense of community among vegan runners. I think is that
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Well, runners have got a lot in common anyway. People
Mm,
who run 26 miles where they don't need to have
yes.
got a hobby which they love sharing with other people. And with veganism as well, people who make a decision to for their health and the world's resources to be vegan have also got a strong bond with other people. So put them together, and you've got a very welcoming group who likes nothing more than meeting new vegan runners.
So, Andrew, thank you very much indeed. It's been lovely talking to you. I think you're a real inspiration for people, because you've had serious operations, serious health issues, and you've found a diet that works for you. You've found that running is therapeutic and very pleasurable for you. I find that slightly odd, but anyway, I know some people find that. So thanks very much for talking to me.
Thank you very much indeed, Jane. Thank you.